Maryann, no pronouns given, is a theist and says they've got personal experience, scientific evidence, and historical evidence leading them to Christianity. Well, Maryann, this is exactly what we want to hear. You are on the show with Jmike and Secular Rarity. What's up?
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Good.
What you got for us today?
I'm already skeptical. Okay.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like
Oh,
AI
sorry. It
or
looks
something.
like there's like a little bit of a lag between the lines.
Okay.
Probably is.
Like,
probably is.
Robotic
I'm not AI.
and weird. I was like, this is sounding very weird to me already. Sorry about that.
What do you got for us today, Maryann? It sounds like you've got a couple of different pieces of evidence and some personal experience. What would you say is the strongest reason that you believe in Christianity?
Okay, so I'm just going to leave my opinion out of it because what I think, and probably we're going to have to agree to disagree, but I'm just going to leave my opinion out of it, and you can just Google the stats that I'm going to give you or the information that I can give you.
Well, that's
you can
actually
go
not
ahead
really.
and Google it, and you can
Hold
find
on,
out
that's not really how we. It's not really how we run the show, though. We don't like. I mean, there might be things that I need to look into later or something, right? That's perfectly fine. But what we want to do is have a dialogue.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
okay.
Right, yeah.
So
So I'm just going to give you. Yeah. So I'm just. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So I'm just going to say that the Bible was written over a period of over 1,500 years, right? On 3 different continents in 3 different languages, Greek, Hebrew, and Aramaic, and 40 different writers with over 63,000 correlations, yet they all come together to say one story.
Do
right?
they?
The death and the resurrection of Christ.
Do they say one
There's
story
also
though?
over
Real quick,
350
hang on,
messianic
Maryann.
prophets.
I know you have some more stuff, but I want to make sure that we're all being honest here.
Yeah.
Do
a bit at a time.
Do they really all say one singular story? Are you familiar with Professor Joel Baden and the documentary hypothesis?
So they foreshadow the Old Testament. A lot of the stories foreshadow the death.
Well, hold on. You were just at Maryann. You were asked a question. Maryann, you were asked a question.
I'm sorry.
You were asked a question. It's okay if you didn't hear it, but
I can. So you I'm sorry, I must have missed it then. So the question was, are you familiar with Joel Baden's work, Dr. Joel Baden's work, and the documentary hypothesis?
Are you familiar with Sir Lionel LeCoux?
okay.
I am, but are you familiar with the thing that I asked first? Because that's actually really important. You used a concept. You didn't say the word univocal, but that's what you were getting at, which means that there is essentially one voice, which is how the literature people describe it. One author writing all of the narrative. So if you go take a look at, say, The Lord of the Rings. It is very clear from start to finish of that entire series that the same person wrote it, because we all have different styles of writing. We all have different words and phrases that we use. The concept of a univocal Bible, for instance, has really not been a part of scholarship for a long time now. Nobody who studies the Bible says that all of the authors and all of the stories are pointing in the same direction. I just think that's a really fair thing for us to touch base on first. We can move on, but I really do think you should look into Joel Baden's work.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and you can also look up Sir Lionel LeCoux. He was. I am
familiar with that, and it doesn't address anything of the documentary hypothesis.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting that you bring that up when you aren't familiar with the documentary hypothesis.
Yeah, I was literally about to say that. It's really weird that it just sounds like this weird deflection that you want to we haven't talked for a long time, but at the moment you haven't convinced me that you're like listening to SR. You're just kind of thinking about the next thing to say in response. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh no, I just want to continue my thought because you.
Yeah, I know, but look, this is yeah, I know this is a dialogue, right? And we have a show, and we will cut people off when we're having discussions with them because we want to understand, and I'm not going to let people just steamroll, right? I think that's a reasonable position to have, to just not let someone steamroll. If you go watch the last week that I did, watch how many times the callers interrupted me and I stopped talking. I think interruptions are healthy. There's times where I'm trying to make a point and I don't want to be interrupted, right? But we have to move at this one pace at a time. Your response to SR there just seemed like you weren't really digesting what was said to you, right? And I don't even want to get to my points until we tie this knot, right? And it's really hard to do that because it doesn't sound like you're listening.
So you asked me a question.
I was trying to make sure.
I'm listening, but you asked me a question. What do you think? So I said, I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can maybe look up later. And I was in the middle.
Yeah, but I'm not. What did I say to that? What did I say to that? I said, look, there might be some things that I need to look up later, and that's perfectly fine. But what I'm not going to do is use the call as a grocery list of Googling, right? I'm not going to. That's not how I perform. That's not how SR performs. It's not how the show performs. It's not what we're doing here. We want to have a dialogue, right? So if you're not like, I don't know, like Peter 3:15, right? Am I? Or I'm sorry, am I getting the verse?
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
Yeah, right.
Where you're supposed to be ready to give your testimony.
It's to me, this is not going to be like, I would rather just move on if what you're going to do is just do this like grocery list thing, right? So like, let's try this and maybe we can get back to it, right? Let me ask you a question.
I don't want to do a grocery list. I just want to leave my opinion out of it so that we're not in a constant.
Well, I want to know your opinion. So if you're just,
we do want to know your opinion in fairness.
Yeah, we want to know what you think, like why you hold the beliefs you do. I can tell you why I hold the beliefs I do. But do you think that Mark and John detail the exact same day of the resurrection, or of the crucifixion and resurrection? Do you think the crucifixion was on the same day in Mark and John?
In their own perspectives, yes.
In their own perspectives. So
it sounds like a no. I just want to say, Maryann, if we're being, hang on real quick, if we're just being straightforward, right? That sounds like what you're saying there is a no, because like if Jmike came up to me and he said to me like, hey, SR, is your gumball machine and your stained glass window of a cow in the same room? And I would say, from their own perspectives, that doesn't sound like a yes. And I think that's the more direct and honest answer. Now, there can be reasons as to why those can be harmonized, right? We can get to that. But the first thing we got to do is we got to just be direct and just be real. Just be real people about it. Like, no, they don't, Maryann. And you believe that. You believe that they don't, but they can be harmonized. And that's okay. We'll get to that. But yeah, what is that harmonization? If it isn't just an obvious yes, what is that answer then that makes those the same?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to Sir Lionel LeCoux, which is a.
Oh my God! No, you know what's awesome about this show is we have a mute button, and we can just use it. And I went right to it, and you got it before me, right? Good. So if you want to have a show where you just want atheists to call in to give you stuff to Google and then look up and then not answer questions and go back to the thing and be totally disrespectful, you can have that show. Like, have the disrespectful Maryann show. I don't care. That's your prerogative, right? We are doing something here. We have a format. The format is having a dialogue. The format is also not just ignoring what we say and then just going right back. You're being extremely disrespectful. And I'm happy to move. We have other callers. There's a theist in the call. I'm looking right here. It says, wants to give an argument for God, or arguments for God's existence, right? They've called in about philosophical arguments. They might have something like I might be able to like chew on, right? Maybe I don't agree at the end of the day. Like you said, agree to disagree, but at least there's something for me to chew on. You're just like, Google this stuff, or I'm going to go back to this stuff. So let's try this one last time. And if not, I'm happy to just, SR, if you want to talk, I'm done. I'm losing my patience with this caller. I don't find them to be an honest person in discussion. So I'm going to ask you, if it's one person and they detail a day like Friday or Saturday, or 2 different days or 2 different times of the day, like noon or whatever, right? Or in the morning, 2 different times, and it's by the same person, it's a contradiction, right? And if it's several different people, they contradict each other, right? I don't really know which way you interpret this, that it works out. So maybe we get back to what SR asked you about to help you, which is harmonizing these, trying to help us figure out what gets rid of this. Because we're not saying, gotcha. We want to know how this is explained. But talking about Sir McDougan is not really interesting to me right now.
Yeah, we've still got you muted, Maryann, and I'm going to unmute you here in just a second. And when I do that, you're going to hear a beep, and that's okay. Just give me just 1 second, because I want to just try and we'll just rewind it all. Okay, and we'll just start out with this. And before I ask the question, I'm just going to help you out as much as I can, which is go right into it and give us the best thing you got. Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying to us today is that all of these stories in the Bible were written by a single voice, were written with a single intention in mind. Why? Why do you believe that?
All scripture is given by inspiration of God, correct?
How do you know that?
Because there is, again, I will say it again, it was written over a period of 1,500 years on 3 different continents, 3 different languages, with over 63,000 correlations.
Do you see why that's circular, Maryann? Do you see why you've come back to the exact same spot to answer why you were in the same spot?
Please
do you understand?
We understand the Jordan Peterson of hyperlinking the text and all this kind of stuff.
Maryann, I have looked it up. And more importantly than you or I looking it up, literally thousands, millions potentially at this point of human beings for hundreds of years have not only looked it up, but dug it up from the ground. And that's why I'm really trying to be generous here and say I am very, very sure that Maryann is a smart and capable human being who just hasn't yet come across what is considered consensus scholarship for a long time now. The documentary hypothesis is something that undeniably lays out why the Bible could not possibly have been written from the same singular viewpoint and authorship. It's absolutely impossible. And the fact that you say, well, the reason that the Bible is from one voice is because the Bible is from one voice. That is, in fact, just circular reasoning. And it's a poor way to come to a conclusion. And I feel very confident that if anybody else brought you that same argument, Maryann, because you are smart, you are capable, you would look at them and say, I don't know, man, that just doesn't seem to hold water to me. And that's okay. We all have to do better when it comes to our own critical thinking. I really, really do think one of the easiest things you could do is just go look up Professor Joel Baden's work. Shit, go listen to Kip Davis, go listen to Dr. Josh Bowen, Dr. Megan Lewis, Dr. Bart Ehrman.
Dr. Kill.
Dr. Kill, right? Yeah. I mean,
Kill.
there's so many people that we could list right now, you know? But in all honesty, like, yeah, what you need to do is just get a basis for it, which is, hey, a lot of people for a really long time who've been studying this stuff way more than you and I ever could at this point in our lives, they say something really different from what you're saying. And that's important to look up.
This is an extremely fringe position to take.
Yeah. And it's just where you're starting.
Atheist, or used to be?
Say again?
What? There are Christian scholars like Dr. Mark Goodacre that
Atheist?
What? Famous atheist?
Say again. Hang on. I'm sorry.
That's my bad.
Go ahead, Maryann. Say it again.
I said, did you look up C.S. Lewis? Wasn't he initially a famous atheist?
Oh my gosh.
Does that matter? I know who C.S. Lewis is, but you know he's an author, right? He's not a historian. He's not a textual critic. He's not a philosopher. Right. He's not right. He's barely a philosopher.
I wouldn't call,
he's an author. He's a writer. He wrote entertainment stuff, which is fantastic. I love The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I greatly enjoyed reading that book when I was a child. I mean, what a wonderful series. And sure, there's a lot of Christian iconography in it, but none of that makes it true. It just makes it the stuff that he enjoyed. If somebody goes out there and writes a brand new My Little Pony story, that doesn't make it fucking real. These ponies aren't actually running around talking to each other. It's just a fun story for people. But truly, if you just go and type in the words Dr. Joel Baden, Baden, I promise, Maryann, you will find a lot of really good information. And a lot of really good information, by the way, that exactly like Jmike was just saying, people like Dr. Mark Goodacre, there are so many Christians, truly Bible-believing lovers of Christ themselves, who disagree with the statement that you're saying. And I think there's really solid evidence for their claims.
And they do, because it's indefensible. Your position is indefensible, right? And like, it's like you telling me to look up something just tells me that you don't like. There's things that I know about, the apocalyptic Jesus stuff. That's a pretty like standard view in New Testament scholarship, and I love spouting my mouth off about that. Not like it's like, oh, I want to come off smart. I want to talk about the reasons why I think, Jesus if he had existed, this is the best kind of case that we have, right? I want to I want to be part of the project of reconstructing the historical Jesus and getting the best informed position. But I don't know. I mean, could you offer us like reasons that you have within you, and not like go Google this thing? Because like that's just not very interesting. It's just really not interesting.
Yeah. What do you want to do, Jmike? You want to keep talking, or you want to move on?
I want to see if she'll give me something from her own head.
Okay. Yeah. Maryann, what is something from you personally?
Well, again,
why should I believe God exists? Give me reasons. Yeah, go ahead. It's just so disorganized. This whole thing's so disorganized. Like, it's like trying to get you to go on the one path of like talking about what SR brought up originally about the documentary hypothesis. And then I'm like, okay, well, you're not going to answer that. Let's try something else. So let's talk about, you said that it's the same, person, in these cases, probably for the gospel. Like, I imagine you think that the gospels are harmonized, right, in some way. So I just point out like, okay, well, presumably you don't think that the gospel writers are all the same, right? You probably think it's like Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John, right? And they disagree. And I just wanted to know how you would reconcile that. Sure. But what you did was not actually give me anything. You just wanted to go back to the other thing.
They do disagree, though, by your own definition, Maryann. Well, you said it earlier. You already admitted to it. You already admitted to the fact that the Gospels cannot possibly be in agreement.
I said, can I give you an analogy?
Yeah.
You can, but it won't be helpful.
Give you an analogy?
You can, but it won't be helpful.
Okay. Well, I think it will be, so that maybe you can understand why.
Go for it. You don't have to explain why you're giving an analogy. We understand. But the problem is that the analogy will fail very quickly in a very obvious way that won't relate to this situation. An analogy should equal up, but this one won't. But go ahead, Maryann.
Yeah, you need properties in both cases that are like analogous.
It will. I promise you it will.
Okay.
I promise you it will. So
one of us will be wrong.
I promise you it will. If you let it, if you
just go ahead.
Have an open mind.
We don't need to meta on this. Okay. It's actually driving me nuts. Let's just go.
All right.
Sorry, I just get impatient when we talk about. No, it's not that. It's just like talking about the thing we're about to talk about.
Sorry, there's a lag in the line.
That's fine.
What I'm trying to say is basically, if me and you are standing on a corner of a street, and there's a car in front of us, okay, and two cars, whatever, they collide, okay, and we're both watching the accident, and the police came to me and asks me what I saw, and I give him my eyewitness account of what I saw, and then he came to you and asked you for your report and see what you saw. You could your report will be not 100% the same as what I saw.
I've muted you because I knew that's what you were going to say.
Fine.
And I'll point out to you exactly the problem here. There is no issue if what the Gospels said was something like, yeah, I saw like a handful of people, maybe it was 5, maybe it was 7, could have been as much as 10, but definitely no more or no less. And then the next one said, well, it might have been a dozen, or it could have been as low as 8. Those two things would be analogous to what you were bringing us just a moment ago. But that is not the problem in the Gospels.
And it's even worse. It's even worse, yeah, because like you have that, and then on top of that, what you have is when I'm trying to inquire about your view, I have 2 dates that the gospel tell about Jesus's crucifixion, and I want to say, in virtue of what is one of those right rather than the other? Because they could both just be wrong. So I could just go, for the sake of charity, which there's like no reason I should even be this charitable, but I like to give the toys to play with because I really think that these positions are indefensible, that you can show this better by giving them more toys to play with. So let's just assume that one of them has to be right. He was crucified on this date. I think Jesus was crucified, right? Okay, great. That's fine, right? And I don't have like the most immense evidence that's going to convince my atheist friends that don't believe that or something, right? But I'm happy to go on board with that. So we got Jesus, he's crucified, and we have these 2 dates. One of them is right. In virtue of what is one right over the other? Right? It's either a Saturday, it's not. It's either 12 o'clock, it's not. Right? Like, I need
There's
to
either
understand.
500 or 2. I mean, that's the issue. It is not just as simple as Jmike said the shirt was slightly reddish orange, and I said maybe it was a burnt umber. Like, no. It is a matter of it was solid black versus solid white. Those are the differences that have to be reconciled. And I honestly think you know that, Maryann.
I mean, otherwise, how do I know that one of the views is justified if what's not being given to me is something justificatory, right? It needs to be a reason other than like Googling it may possess that embedded into the Google that I do. But it's going to be hard for me to navigate through that. Like, and with all of that information, if someone like yourself believes it and has reasons to believe it, you just share your reasons with me. Right.
Look, Jmike, I think
I'm not done.
I'm ready to move on to.
I don't think it'll be forthcoming.
Maryann, I really believe that if you continue studying down this path as you have been, you will find out the correct information. I really do believe that. If, however, you are combative and uninterested in digging in further and simply ready to deflect from your reasoning to others, it'll be difficult. So thank you so much for calling. I think you are definitely very capable. I think all of our callers are capable, to be honest, you know, even though I sometimes yell and I get a little angry and I might even say bad words or call them names every now and then. But truly, I really do believe that if you are calling into this show, right, you are interested in this stuff, and sometimes it's just simply a matter of the fact that we haven't come across the information, and so we like to help provide that when we can. Sometimes
try to streamline it for me so I don't have to do all this digging. Like, did Jesus want me to Google stuff? Like, you know, this is just odd to me. Like,
all those shepherds many a year ago didn't have the Google machine. I mean, what the fuck were they? They weren't on TikTok. There must be other arguments and reasons. I mean, there's all these Christian philosophers for years that have gone through syllogism after syllogism. I mean, come on, you know, have a deeper, stronger faith if you're going to have one. I mean, I don't think you should. I think you should go for reason and evidence and logic, but hey, whatever, if you're gonna have one.